Welcome to your weekly interval. This is the Best Damn Nerd Show. I am your host, Microphone Alchemist Bimbo Jimbo. With me tonight, Imperial Commissar Jeff Budd.
Just doing a little research for the show, fellas. I'm going to do a visual prop every episode now.
Visual gags abound. Sorry, some of us like theater of the mind. You have to
Not
describe
me.
how you're holding up the comic that is The Boys, which is what we're going to be talking about. And Chief Science Officer of Star Labs, Mark Truex.
Hi, excited.
I'm excited.
I like the boys.
Thank you, Mark.
I like the boys.
Your enthusiasm is appreciated as always, buddy.
Mark is cracking up the entire 7th grade class right now.
And Mark is also doing a visual gag. He's wearing a Dune t-shirt. So, you know, we're excited about the new trailer. More on that at 11. And Professor Chris Davis.
I'm pretty sad I don't have any visual aid this time.
Well, Davis,
You got the ball rolling.
Yeah, and you're sitting in front of the Raiders logo, thus confirming that you are a Raiders fan. So
I'm not.
That's now show canon. You've been in front
I mean,
of
explain it, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm at my parents' house, man.
All right, another basement dweller Raiders fan is what it sounds like to me.
I think I
Basement nerd.
I think I would have stuck probably with being the Raiders fan than the latter, but you know, you do.
Oh, not me. I'd much rather be in my parents' basement than flying the black and gray and silver.
Love my mama and papa.
Black, dude. Vegas proud. All right, welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show.
Vegas.
We are going to be getting into the Amazon series, The Boys, based off, of course, the comic book. But let's go over a couple little news and notes and stuff like that. Mark, first of all, I got to see you socially distanced, of course. All protocols were observed.
I saw no masks in those pictures.
We were on a boat.
They were translucent. So, yeah, we were in international waters, so actually there was no protocols that we had to adhere to out there.
Are Americans allowed to go into international waters anymore? What are the quarantine procedures?
I think it was all good. We got all cleared, rites of passage and everything. But Mark also showed me his treasure trove of toys from his ancestral home in the 831. Mark, what did you take back with you? What did you find at home? It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so my mom held on to all of my toys from growing up, and I finally found all of them. So I got all my old school Ninja Turtles, and I finally figured out how to reattach their hands soundly. So I've been repairing them all and getting all the hands reattached. I had nothing but nubs for a while. I got back the Technodrome, which was the massive play set of Krang's, evil mobile fortress, a whole bunch of Power Rangers for my daughter to play with, and she loves Pink Ranger. She's a total Kimberly fan.
Those Power Rangers, Mark, like you were. We also hit on a truth that maybe Mark was embarrassed of liking the Power Rangers because I didn't like the Power Rangers and he was always hanging out with me, so that maybe I ruined it for Mark.
I was like, no one's talking positively about this stuff. I have no one to turn to.
So easily swayed.
He was my only friend I was like playing toys with.
These toys are stupid, am I right? It's like, yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just been a total like trip down memory lane, digging through all these toy chests of G.I. Joes and Ninja Turtles and Battle Trolls. Found a couple He-Mans and Terminator figures.
Some great wrestling action figures too.
Tons of wrestling action figures. Absolutely. One of the prize gems was Goldust with his robe.
Yeah, with his.
Can't find his hair though. He used to have like a hair sock that you would put on.
Wig. Yeah.
Yeah, but
find it.
That one's missing.
I think my favorite part was you were so excited to find Tunnel Rat, the G.I. Joe. And keep in mind that the G.I. Joes are like the old school ones. Their torso, like their upper body and lower body, were held together by rubber bands. And those rubber bands are so old now that I think exposing it to the open air just destroyed them, because one moment Mark was playing with a Tunnel Rat, and then a few minutes later he just found him just
in pieces
from his legs.
It was just in pieces. It was so sad.
Well, I'm sure you can fix them. That was the dream that we all had.
See, I don't know how to fix those, even with the Ninja Turtle hands, because I don't know if you guys had the same issue. Constantly, the hands would pop off because you try to like shove something in there, like one of their weapons, and it's too much force, or maybe I'm just using gorilla strength, but they were always losing their hands. and those things are a pain in the ass to shove back in. And I tried even like Googling after I brought everything home, like, all right, what's the best method to reattach Ninja Turtle hands or anything? No advice. No advice online. Not on Reddit, not on any forums, not on YouTube. It was very difficult. I am not the only one losing hands.
And it sounds like that's a pretty rare occurrence. I never had that problem, Mark.
No,
yeah, me neither.
It happens. They're a pain in the ass to get back in. So
how much force were you using?
Sympathies.
I was a strong child. It was hard. So yeah, I had to bust out needle nose pliers and do all kinds of like pushing of the plastics before they engulfed them again. It's all right. I fixed a bunch of them. Well, I'm pretty proud of myself.
I'm glad. I'm happy your mom held on to all those too. It was an awesome trip down memory lane. All right, let's get into the actual news for this week though. The Dune trailer came out this week. Are you guys excited for Dune? What did you think your first look? Mark, you're wearing the shirt, so we'll keep it with you first.
Dune is so exciting. I read the first 3 books within the past year or so, and I'm totally hooked on it. And after I read the books, I watched the David Lynch movie. Even though repping the shirt here, my God, was there a lot of problems with it. And then even watching the sci-fi like made-for-TV miniseries that they did was much better. They at least told all the acts of the first book, but still some things were just a little clunky. Like I feel like the outside viewer watching either of those films who didn't know the story would just be confused the whole time. And so what I'm really excited for is seeing how this one's being all packaged together and the world building they're doing on it. I'm really excited for them to actually nail it and deliver it for audiences that maybe aren't familiar with the story and actually bring Dune out bigger and better than ever.
I think it looks pretty awesome as far as first trailers go. I'm hooked. So it looks really good. Jeff, what did you think? Because I know you're a fan as well.
Fan of the series, but I've only read the first book. I'm also a fan of the original movie. I forgive it its mistakes. I think for an 80s movie and putting the entire story in one film, which is an incredibly ambitious project, it didn't do horribly. But this looks great. I'm really excited. I thought the trailer was amazing. I'm glad they're splitting it into 2 movies. I think a miniseries would probably be best for the story, but I mean, I think this is going to be outstanding. I'm really looking forward to it. I like the kid who's going to play Paul Atreides. I think he kind of looks more of how I visualized that character. Trying to think of who else is in it and which parts they're playing. I think everybody will be fine. But yeah, I'm just really stoked. So far, so good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Davis, I have no idea what your temperature on it is, Davis, actually. I knew Mark and Jeff were fans, but I have no idea about you. I know you're a Raiders fan, but...
I know.
It's all anybody knows.
I know nothing about Dune. I'm going to be real honest. I have no idea what the story is. I'm actually still trying to grasp Mark reading 3 books in a year because I can't even fathom doing that, especially the size of those ones.
And they're big. They're really
these are
big.
serious books, man.
I did a lot of international traveling.
There's no pictures. It's not an audiobook. I don't know how you do that, man. No, the trailer looks visually stunning, and it looks just like an epic space opera sci-fi. Just like I'm in. Like David Villeneuve something.
Yeah, that's how you.
Thank you.
Yeah, visually he always seems to get it right. From what I remember. So I am very interested to see what it is, but I have no idea what the story is about. So.
Well, that's great then. We'll go back to you after we see the movie and see if it made any sense or not.
Yeah, you're
I mean, honestly, like exactly what Mark and I are talking about, because Mark is very, very correct in what he's saying about the original movie from the 80s. If you don't know the story, yeah, hell, man. I mean, you may still enjoy it, but you certainly don't know what the fuck's going on. We'll see how this one explains things or abbreviates things, cuts things out, or how they try to, I don't want to say dumb it down because that's not the case, but I don't know, just try to make it more palatable for this type of medium.
Yeah, and it is going to be 2 movies, I know, so that's...
Yeah, that already is a step in the right direction. Yeah.
And I really hope they expand into the following books, Messiah and Children of Dune. I mean, just the fact that they have Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho, that's where he really...
Yeah.
No spoilers, Mark.
I was gonna say,
What do you
yeah.
mean?
I don't know if you want to say anything.
Oh, just yeah.
No,
I mean,
You know what I mean?
character.
Like, yeah.
stop it now, Meg.
Wow.
All right, but Davis,
I know what you mean, Mark, but yeah.
you actually took a trip to the theaters, Davis, and you saw New Mutants. I almost forgot to bring that up. What did you think,
Oh
dude?
shit! I did see New Mutants. That's right. I did in the last week. Man.
Correspondent on the scene.
Oh, man, so much has gone on. Yeah, no, I did see, and I went to the theater, which was weird in this time and era. And there was only
How many people?
It's just packed.
including my girlfriend and I, 4. So
Oh, I love that. That's
Were
all.
tickets same price?
That's all they're
yeah.
letting in the theaters.
no, yeah, totally.
They're
It's sold
taking-
out. Sold out.
They're taking these precautions way too far.
Did you have to keep your mask on?
No, only through the lobby, bathroom, getting concessions, stuff like that. Once you sat down, you can take it off. So, and they were, on the other side of the aisle, a couple rows
They
down.
sit right next to you.
Yeah, well, we did end up sitting like 2 rows behind him at first. I'm like, what are we doing? There's nobody else here, so we moved pretty quickly. But yeah, no,
Bring like
but
a picnic blanket, put down.
no, so we watched it, and I gotta say it wasn't terrible, but it
For
also
an
wasn't.
X-Men movie, that is dynamite.
Yeah, and I was thinking about, it's like, man, what was the last X-Men movie I could actually say that about? And it was probably Logan.
Logan.
Yeah, I
which
would
was
have to.
which was amazing. So I'm not going to compare it to that, but
You just did.
it was.
What was it? Deadpool 2? Did that come out after Logan?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Possibly. But I would say half the characters were done very well, half of them were not. The visuals were actually done really. I was surprised from what we saw in the Comic-Con trailer, it stayed true and was pretty good throughout the movie. Magic and Wolfsbane were done really well. Maisie Williams and I forget the girl that does Magic, but they were definitely the strongest characters in the movie. So that was cool to see. But Moonstar, who is the feature of the movie, was kind of a lame duck in my opinion, which was too bad. Cannonball doesn't have much of a leader role because they just kind of got together. This is like their first mission together, I would say.
Right.
So he wasn't, up to that leader potential. But I also didn't see him becoming a leader too, and they didn't really dive into that at all. So that was unfortunate. Name's blanking me now. The fire guy, yeah. Sunspot. He was just completely forgettable.
Clearly.
That's too bad. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
I thought he looked cool
just
in what
not
they showed
there.
at the Comic-Con at home stuff too, like how they did his
No.
powers looked cool.
No, the visuals were good for him. It was just the character himself. They didn't give him much to work with. He was just kind of like this jockish, rich Brazilian dude, and just didn't really get outside of that. So,
Okay.
yeah. But overall, they did the Demon Bear Saga story, and it was, it definitely wasn't word for word from the book. They took a lot of stuff from the graphic novel, and what they did take was really good. But when they tried to go outside of it, it's just like what we see in Game of Thrones. It's not good. they didn't have much themselves, and once they went outside of it, that's where it faltered. And so I would say 60% of the movie was pretty good.
Well, that's
Worth
like
seeing in theaters during a pandemic.
See, when you throw that last part in, I'm not sure if you want to risk it for the biscuit
New
there.
Mutants.
So, yeah, no, I think I'd probably go see Tenet instead right now.
Mark on his deathbed's like, New Mutants was great.
It was totally worth it.
Oh no.
So,
Well, hey, 60% good, like Jeff jokingly said, for an X-Men movie.
yeah, no, I mean, lately I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna take that, and honestly, I'd like to see that group of characters again. I might
Nah,
change
ain't
an
gonna
actor or
happen.
two, but it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna
Yeah.
happen. and we know that, and it's kind of too bad.
I like what you said in the Discord, though, Davis. That I mean, obviously circumstances, whatever, like that, but the fact that you actually wanted to support it in theaters, I appreciate you saying that.
We spent a shit ton on concessions because we felt that way. We were like, we need to support the theater right now, and we're not gonna sneak in candy and popcorn like we usually do. And
what'd you get?
He bought a small popcorn for $400.
We did the whole deal, candy, popcorn, soda. It was great. Back to the movie experience. And you know what? I will go back right now because nobody's going, and so I definitely don't feel unsafe going. So it's fine.
Oh, that's all right. Well, good. Well, I'm glad you had a good theater going experience despite the hit and miss nature of New Mutants. Jeff and I talked about on the last episode, John Boyega's strong comments about Star Wars and how they treated his character. And then Star Wars finds itself back in the news with Daisy Ridley, a.k.a. Rey, essentially saying that they didn't know what the hell they were doing with her backstory and her parentage, that, certain things were pitched to her in terms of maybe being a Kenobi in the early going of the script. Then Rian Johnson was adamant that she was a nobody. And then it kept flip-flopping back and forth, even during Rise of Skywalker, in terms of who she was going to be related to. So really, I don't know, I found it pretty revealing in terms of just them not knowing what the hell that they were doing with this trilogy. What did you think of the interview that Daisy Ridley did there, Jeff?
Well, I think revealing is a good word to use to describe it. I mean, we all suspected that they didn't know, their ass from their elbow as they were putting together this trilogy. And she's kind of helped confirm it. I mean, I knew that Rian Johnson basically threw everything out, that if J.J. Abrams had passed on any notes to him. What I think they made the biggest mistake in then was then trying to do the exact same thing to Last Jedi. I feel like they should have then just leaned into it and then kind of just adapted some of the things that he had introduced in that film. I would have probably kept her as a nobody. I don't think there's anything wrong with her not having a lineage and still being force sensitive, and maybe even being a great force user. Who cares? Yeah. If she did have to be related to anybody, I think I would have preferred it most if she was related to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then I was gonna say maybe that would mean that she's half Mandalorian, and then I was thinking, but Mandalorians are not an actual race anymore. Yeah, it's a creed. So I don't know. Ignore what I just said about that, I suppose. But it would be kind of cool. I feel like if she was related to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then it could have been different with her relationship with Luke, but then we would have had to do something different with Last Jedi, and Rian Johnson didn't want to play with the same toys as J.J. Abrams. I mean, the whole thing is a disaster, and it's too bad. I don't understand how this happens. I don't know how you just let the trilogy be such a mishmash like that. I'd like to see a lot of people get fired, but in Hollywood, I just feel like they shuffle people around and everybody just gets richer, and I don't know, movies aren't as good anymore. Now I'm a grumpy old man.
It's just funny how tight you imagine Disney is with their properties, the do's and don'ts of things, and yet somehow this fiasco happened under their watch, where it's so blatant from movie to movie that these directors are trying to get something over on each other. This is almost unheard of in at least what I know of other properties and things going exactly. Because at the end of the day, they're investing millions of dollars in putting this thing out, and this time they're just fuck it. All right, full control.
I truly believe this is going to be a forgotten trilogy. Years down the road.
I hope so.
I think it's just going to be swept under the rug. I know kids grew up on it, and they're going to be like, oh, this was the best ever. But there's too much coming out now of what...
remember when they lied to us in the second one about Rey's parents?
Well, if toy sales have anything to do with it, then it's kids aren't really relating to this trilogy the way they were with the prequel trilogy, and then, of course, the original trilogy, which multiple generations were fans of. But, I mean, I think kids today, if they're into Disney movies, they're into the Marvel films. And it's that just fills their void. It's Star Wars, whatever. It's I really like Iron Man or Black Panther or something. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Elsewhere, we had the announcement that at long last, The Walking Dead is ending after season 11, but that Carol and Daryl are getting a spinoff. Mark, you're the resident still.
Thank God.
I know they lost you a lot along the way recently, but you were holding on the longest, Mark. What say you about the latest with the Walking Dead universe?
Well, season 10 still hasn't finished.
Daryl survived. If you were worried about that,
Spoiler alert.
Apparently, Daryl's been fine. The Daryl-Carol relationship has waned, especially in this past season 10. I've always just been waiting for the Slutocalypse to happen with Carol from the comic books, and it's never delivered once. So,
thank God.
I mean, if they at least go down that route.
They'll pitch it to Cinemax. Maybe it'll finally happen. I don't know. Jeff, you seem excited about this news, other than the spinoff, of course. But of course.
Well, of course. Man, jeez.
I can't believe it's been that long, to be honest with you. It's crazy. Time goes.
The Walking Dead started up again when we started doing the podcast over Skype.
I know.
Like, that's weird.
Because I have in my mind's eye talking to, like, I know where I'm sitting in my living room doing the show with you guys via Skype, and I know exactly what TV I was watching Walking Dead on at the time, and like that's sort of the box that, because that's like, I loved early Walking Dead, and it was so much fun talking about it with you guys.
No, I mean, it was even before like Mark had joined the show and stuff, and he's the only one who's like really read a lot of The Walking Dead. So I mean,
read all of it.
Everything. Well, at the time you didn't, because it was still going on.
All
Mark.
of it.
It was still going on. But yeah, so a lot of it was just like real guesswork with us. And then I mean, the show did, diverge a few times from the comic even pretty early on. So I mean, it's kind of exciting even for a reader like Mark to have watched in the beginning. But man, did it it overstayed its welcome. And it stopped being interesting, and it was incredibly formulaic, and the big bad that we were promised and people were building up and getting excited about, it's like when he did show up, as much as I like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I was like, man, I'm not feeling this the way I think I'm supposed to. And there was like too much going on with the story where I was like, I think The Walking Dead's just sort of passed me by.
Yeah, I know. I think that sort of sums up my sentiment on it as well. I'll tell you what, still is good and hasn't, diverged too much, is still putting out great content, and that's The Boys. We're going to talk about season 1, what's been released of season 2. It is the Amazon Prime hit series, The Boys, on the other side on the Best Damn Nerd Show. Welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show, Bimbo Jimbo with Jeff Budd, Mark Truex, and Professor Chris Davis, and we are going to start getting into The Boys, the Amazon Prime series, and just how we all, got introduced to it. I was not familiar with the comic series coming into this. My, first introduction to it, I think for most of you, maybe not Mark, I don't know. Maybe Mark was more familiar coming in, but was that Comic-Con panel that we sort of all ended up in by happenstance. I think Jeff and Mark were together. I sort of wandered in on my own later on, but
I came in late.
What was your introduction to the whole deal? Marco, we'll start with you.
So I was familiar with The Boys as being a comic book. It wasn't one that I read, but I was a fan of Preacher, another Garth Ennis project that had been adapted into a television series as well, and was a big fan of that and of just Ennis's writing in general. His whole style, it's very visceral, as anyone who's seen the show clearly can tell. And so seeing that they were going to adapt it into a superheroed one, I was jazzed on. So knowing that was already going to be at Comic-Con, I made sure I was there because it was put together by the same team that put together the Preacher show as well. And they're doing very, I would say faithful in a sense adaptations of how they're doing characters. And they're not like really pulling punches, so to speak. And this is the kind of content you don't want those punches pulled. It's highly entertaining and disgusting, and and it's right up my alley. That's what I'm into.
Yeah, very on brand for you, Jeff. I know you said you came in late, but so I guess you were exposed to it at Comic-Con for the first time, right?
Yeah, at Comic-Con, I saw the billboards. I thought that the 7 were The Boys just because I thought it was just about that superhero team. And then, yeah, I came in a Ballroom 20. I didn't get to see any of the scenes because I came in so late. I was only there for the Q&A, which is probably for the best. I didn't have anything spoiled for me. But I really liked the Q&A. It sounded like an interesting enough concept, so I checked it out when it premiered on Amazon like a week or two after Comic-Con last year. And then it turns out, well, what happened was I became such a huge fan of the series. Then I bought all the comics like that fall and read them, and then I loaned them to Mark so that he could read them too. But you guys bought me a Herogasm like back in 2009. And so like we actually had an issue of The Boys with us back then, but we had no idea. Like I didn't know that it wasn't like a standalone. I didn't really understand the part of the story that was like from something else and that I was building on. I just thought it was like a huge like superhero orgy. So
yeah,
so that was fun. But yeah, it was very much like smack dab in the middle of the Boys storyline, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Davis, was that the same for you? Did you get into the panel, Davis? Were you there as well?
I was Mark and I were in that room for a while together, so I was with Mark. I saw the whole thing. I saw it all.
Yeah.
And then that was my first introduction to it. Mark had kind of prepped me on like what he knew about it, and which was a lot of the Preacher stuff, where it came from, and I didn't even really know much about that property, to be honest with you. So I didn't have much going into it, but the whole panel, I mean, it was great. I mean, they hyped that show. They had everyone there. It was not everybody did not get that much time to talk, but they all seemed genuinely just happy to be there and just stoked to be able to share it with everybody. So I mean, that, as we've said before, that always shares so much to a panel, and the footage that they did show it was pretty good too.
This question's for everyone. Nope, none of that. None of that.
Nope.
So the show comes out, and I think pretty unanimously we all loved it. But what really hooked you? Like, how long did it take for you to feel like that this show was something special, or that you're really enjoying? Because I remember, I think I was texting you, Jeff, or I was texting somebody else about Huey's girlfriend. And I was like, she doesn't like Billy Joel. I was like, I hope this bitch gets killed. Like, and then boom, she's dead. I was like, oh,
I don't even know how you got that text out, honestly.
And then she was gone. I was like, dude, what the hell? And so I was like, and I also was not expecting, because I came in late to the panel, so I didn't know the level of brutality and just what I was in store for. But what really hooked you on the show at first, Jeff?
Yeah, it definitely started off real strong, and I enjoyed the entire first episode. I think by episode 2, I was just like, yeah, I definitely want to keep watching this. I mean, it just progressively got better. I don't know if I could go back on season 1 and say like particular episodes that stood out to me, but I mean, it's like those scenes stand out to me. And so, I mean, I think it's even by episode 2 that we already have like A-Train's race and stuff like that. It's like, I liked all of that. And I kind of liked how they built the world, and if superheroes were real, they'd be run by a corporation, sort of. They would also be like our celebrities, and just all of that kind of be melting together. I really enjoyed.
You said something about the world, and that's one thing that in getting ready for this episode that I think is underrated about The Boys, is that it does feel like a real universe that they've created. Like that it exists. It lives and breathes even when the cameras aren't on. They did a really good job of world building with The Boys, and in going back and now watching the first few episodes of season 2 and watching some of my favorite parts of season 1, they did a phenomenal job with that. But Davis, what hooked you on The Boys?
I mean, the first scene I think will hook just about anybody. Like, just from the get-go, this is not your typical superhero show. But I mean, beyond that, Homelander's character is just, I can't take my eyes off of him when he's on the screen, because there's so much
very
that
handsome.
he does. But he's so there's so much going on with his face in every scene that he's acting, and I was laughing last night as I was watching the last 2 episodes of season 2, and I'm laughing as I'm watching him, and my girlfriend just goes, "What are you laughing at? He rapes people. he is not a good man."
We don't know that.
Yeah, well, It's implied.
He does some vile, horrible things, and he is a murderer at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't know about the raping, we do know about him like destroying an airplane or and, like leaving that other airplane to die. Like, I mean, yeah, he's done a lot of awful things.
He's a wicked man who's done many wicked acts. Yes,
and I just laughed because he's just so good, and I was like, wow. I mean, it's just there's so much going on with his character and everything about him, and it's fun to watch.
He is a very potent combination of charisma and like this weird intimidation. Like he's scary but very charismatic all at one. It's just a very interesting combination. Mark, what hooked you on the boys?
The just like Davis, that first scene with the armored truck where they're showing this awesome destruction with Maeve just giving like a wink and a nod, and like doing all these kind of like cutesy, like what you would associate more with like Silver Age, like comic books where it's like they're looking all regal, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of fun and games for them, but just like atrocious violence all mixed in. That hooked me like right off the bat, and you can tell even in those scenes with Homelander where he's kind of talking to the kids and they're like wanting to take his photograph and stuff, and he's like, I forget if he throws like part of like the car or something and like crushes that guy.
Yeah, he throws one of the guys.
He threw the person. That's what I was just like. I just remember like a guy getting offed in the distance, or it's just like, yeah, perfect.
He just owns every scene. I want to talk about the comics with Jeff and Mark in terms of what do you feel like the comics did better? What do you think that the changes the show made for the better? Just sort of a little compare and contrast on what you've liked from the show as compared to the comics and vice versa. Jeff, we can start with you if you just want to name a couple things.
Well, I mean, the show's just started. I mean, we're only in the beginning of season 2, so I don't want to hold it against it too much, but the world is much bigger in the comics. There's so many superhero teams. There's so many characters. I mean, the 7 are a big deal. It's kind of like a very tight group of the Justice League or like, the Avengers or something like that. But all the other groups, I mean, the boys kind of work their way up to confronting the 7. They have to go against some other groups first. Mm-hmm. And so it's those other groups that are a lot of fun and you can do a lot of things with. And I liked it because they name dropped a lot of it in the first season with the G-Men and Tech Knight and everything like that. It's like, I really would like to see those characters. I don't know if they would do it. I really would like to see the G-Men just because that story gets dark. I don't know. Tech Knight, I feel like they would have to do different things with. I don't know how that's going to work. And then also, I don't know how his costume would look on Amazon Prime. It may look kind of dorky. And then as far as some of the characters go, it's hard to say. The show improved on some characters like Homelander. I like Butcher more in the comics, Carl Urban's character.
Really? Because I find I really like him in the show too.
I like him a lot more in the comics, honestly. And then I'm trying to she's not in it anymore, but I really liked Stillwell in the comics. He's a guy, and he doesn't have a relationship in any way with Homelander other than that he is like kind of the Vought representative that sits there with the 7. And he's got like ice water in his veins. I feel like they've kind of taken his character and split it a little bit. And so like the name of Stillwell was in season 1, and then I can't think of the man's name, the higher up boss who was like
Spring.
Yeah, who, I mean, character existed in the comics, but wasn't really like there that much. And I feel like that's almost the actual Stillwell after having him have an interaction with Homelander. So, I mean, I don't want to say too much because I don't know what else the show will take from the books. But if you have a chance, read the comic books. It was very interesting just seeing what it was like having this corporate guy interacting with the 7, kind of being their babysitter. And then them always talking about it's like his heart rate never changes. It's like nothing ever seems to shake the guy. And he really is an ordinary human. There's no like twist that he had some sort of like great powers or anything like that. It's just he knew how to handle them. Yeah. And he was always in control. And there's something kind of reassuring and at the same time like disturbing about that someone like Homelander was like completely helpless to him. And Homelander, he's better on the show, but he was fun in the books. And it is kind of like seeing like a toddler have these temper tantrums sometimes, except for he's, a demigod, basically.
Yeah. So you said a couple times on the show you think Homelander's a little bit better. Why is that? without giving too much away.
I think he has a better personality. I think he's a more compelling character. In the comics, he's almost like a big dumb jock type guy.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that, and that character works in that regard too. But he's more sinister and calculating, I guess, on the show, and I appreciate that. Yeah. I also just really like how Anthony Starr kind of owns the character a lot. I like a lot of the characters on the show more. Butcher, and don't get me wrong, I really like Carl Urban as Butcher. I just think he's so much better in the books. And I think maybe it's because I think he was Enos's favorite, and so like he really writes him well. I feel he's almost his voice a lot of times with a lot of things. And I thought Queen Maeve is much better in the books too. But you know what? The show is still very early on. I don't know how Queen Maeve's portrayal is going to go, and she could end up being just as good or maybe even better too. But right now, I give it to the comic, maybe because I know the entire story for her.
Mark, jump in.
Yeah, so some of the adaptations of the characters are a little different. I would agree that Homelander seems better in the show. It's because it shows more of like the cracks in his so-called armor, where you see him with this obvious like turmoil and how he's really damaged, innocent and crazy. Where in the books he just seems like this stoic buff dude with superpowers, and then later on you start seeing how twisted he really gets. But I feel Anthony Starr's like portrayal of it really rings home. The Deep is basically a nobody in the books.
Oh yeah, so he's way better on the show.
Is way better.
He's more of just like he's really into the money and making sure that their representation is correct. He's getting all the correct market shares, that type of thing. Yeah. But I would say that A-Train in the comics is kind of a mix between the Deep and A-Train on the show.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Deep in the books too. He has a submariner helmet on.
Like a deep dive.
It's like a deep diving helmet because it's cursed by like some Atlantean curse, so he can't take it off. So he just always has that on. And there's this funny thing they do where they try to like rewrite his persona later on, where they just basically like throw a towel over him, like a sheet, and they're like, no one can tell that's the Deep, that big ass helmet.
I just read that part again today. Yeah.
It was really good. I feel like what was changed a lot in the show is just how they treat a lot of the side like characters, a little more like cannon fodder, like the fact that Stillwell is dead now and was basically a big part for the entire book. Yeah. Raynor, that they kill off Raynor right at the beginning of season 2, and she had a decent amount of roles, but that was a consistent thing, their connection with the CIA throughout the entire book. And then her underling Monkey, I don't think we've seen at all. The Legend at the comic book shop, you don't see him at all either, and he's a huge piece of who the boys are and how they're getting a lot of this information and insight. The Legend, for those who haven't read it, is kind of like a Stan Lee of sorts, and so he's the guy that's tasked by Vought to take these superheroes and develop them into the comic book characters to be digested by
the propaganda, basically.
Yeah. And so they took like an actual comics guy and turned it into that. And
so he knows all the secrets, and he's been a part of all of it like since the beginning. And I wonder if we will get him though, since it looked like they're underneath a comic book shop here in season 2. And it's like that's basically where his base was throughout the series. So I don't know, maybe.
Yep. And then I find that they did a lot more character development on the boys so early on in the show. Just Frenchie and the female almost have no character development for the majority of the book, and that's kind of their intrigue, is there's these mysterious killers. I mean, those guys are tanks, they really are. But in the show they've added a lot more human elements to them to make you actually invested in who they are, which is again a nice touch on it.
Interesting.
Okay, and that's another big difference, is in the comics the boys are supes.
Yeah, I was gonna hit on that because I know you had mentioned that before. Do you feel like that's something that maybe is coming down the line for the show, or do you think they're just gonna abandon that entirely?
I mean, I'd like them to abandon it entirely, honestly. I feel like it's very hypocritical that it's like, well, are all soups bad? And it's like, you guys are soups, and you're government controlled soups, so that makes it okay, because they're definitely on the CIA payroll in the comics as well. And then here they almost seem to be more like independent freedom fighters, sort of freelance, if you will, looking to get paid after they're doing stuff type thing. But I like I like the idea of the no backing, and I like the idea that they're mortal men. And I mean, the female is still a Soup, which is fine because that just goes with her character. Her origin really hasn't like changed at all. She is exactly like that in the comics. And then the only other weird thing though is that Mother's Milk is like a natural soup where all of them like take this pill that makes them better than most soups. It's like Mother's Milk is a very different type of soup, and I don't know how they're going to do it on the show because it also has to do with his name Mother's Milk, and I don't know. That's a weird one. So I don't know why he has the nickname on the show.
But even in the show, because I've only seen the first episode of season 2, but they address him as like Marvin Milk, like that's his given name.
Yeah, I don't know. That's bizarre.
Which is not the case.
Yeah, no, he has it for a very different reason, very disturbing reason in the books. So,
all right, well, I guess.
But I could see Butcher like taking something like maybe towards the end of the series just so that he could, duke it out with Homelander. The thing is, they weren't strong enough to face Homelander in the comics, though. Like Homelander, Maeve, and like Black Noir, like the three of them are still like the most powerful. Then like Butcher and the boys, and then like some of the other and maybe like Stormfront and everything too. But yeah, I mean they were able to outclass almost all of them.
I love it. I'm intrigued by the differences in the comic. I love some of the things that you guys have put out there in terms of that they do well there that they haven't incorporated yet into the show. But that being said, the show itself, I think unanimously we also find to be really delightful and very enjoyable. So let's start by diving into season 1 and what we loved about season 1, some of our favorite moments, and we'll go through characters and stuff along the way as well. But Mark, we'll start with you in terms of some of your favorite season 1 moments from the boys.
I liked everything with the Deep, aside from like his introduction. That was so terrible, like that on film where with him and Starlight. But everything after that, like basically this whole sort of like they're trying to put him on like this redemption arc of sort. It feels like, and just everything that happened to him, like you felt good because of what happened between him and Starlight in the very beginning. So him with the lady abusing his gills and him trying to free the lobster and the dolphin, like all of those scenes.
Scene is incredible.
All of those scenes
so
are
sad. Gold
because it's just torturous for him, and you get a joy out because he's like a bad guy. But by the end of it, you're just like, I want him to get a break.
It's Chase Crawford too. He's a hard guy not to like. And going back and watching season 2 and rewatching some of season 1, he really did such a great job as the Deep. I think he's really awesome. I think I wanted to make sure that I threw this one out there. I forgot that it was in, I think, the first episode when they go to the superheroes like lounge, like the hidden bar kind of deal. And it's like they're doing all their pervy stuff where they're out of the eye of the paparazzi and everything. That scene blew me away the first time I watched it, and it's still just as good watching it back now. Like that's just one of the best parts of the show to me, and it speaks to that world building. It's like, oh god, it's just like this is what these creepy bastards are like with their superpowers. There's a tiny little guy like running and launching himself inside a woman, and she's loving it, and like Ezekiel's doing his thing, and like there's like the people that can fly, they're having an orgy towards the ceiling, and they're just doing all kinds of messed up shit. It's like Mos Eisley for superheroes. Yeah. Heroes and that's quotes, I guess.
Basically Herogasm boiled down into like a small clip.
Yeah.
It's so wild. I remember just watching, I was like, this show is like, it's like Mystery Men and Watchmen, just with the volume turned up all the fucking way. It was crazy. Davis, how about you? What are some of your favorite moments from the boys?
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes was I think it was a Make-A-Wish Foundation that they were at. And Adrian's there. He's like, I can teach you how to run as fast as I do. And the kid's just like, really? Can you teach me how to outrun cancer? Just everything to do with like that scene. It was just so much black comedy in it. It was so good.
I think the underrated part of that scene is watching, because it's like all playing out like on Instagram Live. So you're seeing the reactions change. Like everybody's like thumbs up and hearts at first, and then the kid's like, "But I wanted to see translucent." And, and then they're getting sad, and then when A-Train is just clearly dropping the ball, it turns like the angry and like the crying emojis that are floating up on screen. Super good.
And
Jeff,
then and then any scene between is it Stillman?
Stillwell.
Stillwell and Homelander is just memorable, just how creepy and just disturbed it is. It's just, those scenes always stuck out to me too. Just anything regarding that odd relationship.
It's very off-putting.
Yeah, and I can't believe that wasn't in the comics, because you guys said he was Stillwell's a man, and that just blew me away, because that relationship in the show and those scenes, man, that was
their writers made it up.
They made it up.
Complete fabrication.
They got me.
Yeah, see,
bravo.
You love it. Jeff, what about you? What are some of your favorite moments from the season 1 of The Boys?
I mean, yeah, I'll piggyback on what my boys have said. All of those were great scenes. Probably my favorite scene, though, was the airplane rescue gone awry with Homelander and Queen Maeve. And I mean, they went there with the best of intentions, and then when it turned out that things weren't going to go so well, Homelander decided to just abort the mission and let all those people die. I loved all of that. I thought that was great. And then I liked a lot of kind of like the final confrontation scene with Butcher and Homelander in Stillwell's house. I thought that was a really wild way to end season 1. So I thought all of that was good. And yeah, I really liked all of the Deep stuff too. I really liked the lobster scene for some reason. I think that's my favorite scene with the Deep. I feel really bad for him with that one.
Yeah,
even more than the dolphin for some reason. I don't know. It hits home.
I like the conversation he was having with the dolphin, and just the fact that it got ran over. I don't know. It's all sad with him, but it's, I think the cast did a really good job overall. And we're going to go through some of the characters and stuff like that. And there are characters that when they were first introduced that I thought I would absolutely not be into them. And they almost all won me over in some sort of endearing or captivating way within the show. And so, good on them. Some other scenes that I thought really stood out were, anything with Black Noir for me. He is unironically one of my favorite characters in the show, and I think how they portray him is hilarious, because he doesn't say, he's very, like, everybody compares him to Snake Eyes online because he has a very similar look. He doesn't say anything, but I had forgotten at the party him sitting next to the piano player and then just taking and starting playing the piano. It's so freaking good, and it's just, he's hilarious to me. And I even love how Homelander refers to him, when he's like chastising the group, talking about how they've lost their way and they seem to be, confused and falling down. He's like, "Not you, Noir. I know you're doing your thing." That was always so good. It was such a good moment to me. But the other thing I want to mention was, I think that the love story between Huey and Starlight was actually really well done and believably written. I liked how they first met in the park and how they were talking with one another. And, Huey didn't have any sort of agenda going into that. They both were going through just the shits, and I liked their relationship quite a bit, and I'm rooting for them, and so, like, as we move into season 2 and everything, I want them to end up together. So I thought they did a really good job with their sort of romance, just their relationship through all the ups and downs of it. It sucks what happened between them, and like Butcher, pushing Huey to, betray her trust and everything. And man, again, I think we talked about this in the original run when we discussed, but like when he's on the date and Butcher interrupts and he's got that friend that interrupts on the date, it's like, dude, the worst cock blocks. Do not come sit down mid-date with Huey and Starlight. It's
very
brutal.
Bizarre. Yeah, who would do that? I mean, I understand why Butcher did it, but I don't understand why that other guy did it. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
It was incredibly rude and insulting him.
But let's go through some of the characters. Homelander, we've talked about a bit already. I think to me, he's probably the standout character from the show. I think he owns every scene that he's in. Anthony Starr, as Jeff alluded to, he's such a charming and charismatic actor. And Davis, you talked about it too, just his presence. Like there's something about him that even just like the little facial expressions and everything, like he demands your attention.
It's just when he's on the screen, you just don't know what's going to happen because just a light switch can click and he's going to go batshit crazy or something, and you're just waiting for something, and you're just always in anticipation if he's around. And it's hard to remember a character that does that in a TV series for me. That just has that much depth to him that you just don't know what he could do next.
It's exactly why Mark cast him for Lex Luthor, and I think it would have been awesome.
Oh, is that
True.
right?
Yeah, because he said he's
true.
kind of demonstrating what Homelander's. It's like what we would want to see in a Lex Luthor in a Superman film, where it's like he holds it together and he seems really, perfect, and then snaps.
Jeff, I know you were captivated by Homelander so much so that you did a really kick-ass Homelander costume.
I was actually even going to wear it to Comic-Con this year. Look how that turned out.
But what is it about?
That's what I get for trying to jump on the Davis cosplay. You know what it is? I think it's a really cool character design because I do like the amalgam version of like Superman and Captain America. It's like Super Soldier. And then also the fact that like with all of the characters and the boys that they turn it on its head. So, Homelander to me represents exactly why Superman is as great as he is, because Homelander has all those powers and you see how it's corrupted him completely. He really doesn't have to answer to anybody if he doesn't want to. And he's constantly questioning it of like, why am I answering to anybody? I'm going to push it a little bit further. And he becomes kind of sadistic and twisted and, expects certain things to just happen. And he's a bully. He's very petty. And you see that a lot in season 2 also where, the girl who got the promotion to basically Stillwell's position, I forget what her name is, but the one who was a real bitch to Starlight in season 1. And it's like the things that Homelander is saying to her, it's like, of course you could, eradicate her immediately if you have to, Homelander. But the fact that he then speaks to her like that, it just shows, what a small man he is in a certain way. And it's like in Superman is the complete opposite and is even more powerful. And it's like Homelander is a testament to why Superman is such a great character. And I would of course like to see like all the fan illustrations. I'd love to see Superman get his hands on Homelander and put him in his place. It would be terrific. And Homelander would probably just drop down on his knees and beg for forgiveness, because he's a coward.
Like a dog.
Like if he ever had to face something that actually put him at a disadvantage, he would fall apart, kind of like with that plane rescue.
Yeah, no, that is an interesting point. The plane rescue is a great scene, and even when they're hitting that turbulence, that was a big one. And it's just like, let's just bail. Like,
yeah. Well, he's like, because I can't save some people because then it's going to get out that I couldn't save everybody. So it's like I understand it as far as hurting his brand, and he did make some very good points from like a physics perspective. That it's like, what does he do? How does his flying work? He's not pushing off of anything. He can't just like fly the plane above him or anything like that. It's just very interesting. You get to see the limitations of somebody who's considered like limitless.
Yeah, no, and I like the PR aspect as a through line in the show is really good. And jumping ahead to season 2, how Homelander treated that blind superhero, just boxing his ears and just wrecking him was intense. But he made a good point. It's like, what happens when somebody does that to him? It's like he's done. It's like as simple as that. Mark, what did you think about Homelander, and just why do you think he's sort of I think pretty much the consensus like standout? And you're the resident Superman fan, so
I think
what do you think of him from that perspective?
I think Superman tends to be the collective mind's like iconic superhero when you think of like who a superhero is, both just his actual look and power set and mentality and all that. And so Homelander very much is just a twisted version of that. So it's already taken this kind of character that most people would have a certain feeling toward and anticipation of who they are and how they fit into this world, and just completely flips the script on them. And the fact that he is so maniacal and evil and complete opposite of what Superman truly is what makes him so enthralling to see on film.
Yeah, and he does such a good job, again, Anthony Starr, of like putting on that front. Like, I love taking the selfie with the kids, but really you can tell like it's just a veneer. They're just like, God, just get me out of here, kind of stuff. I do like, one of my favorite quotes is, what I do want to hear is who we saved this week. And just like the complete bullshit put on for Starlight and everyone. Also, I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up how he talks to Mesmer. It's like, well, golly gee shucks, I don't give a fuck what you have to do with any of this. It's like so good how he talks to him. We'll touch on Mesmer in a moment. Queen Maeve is somebody that you said, the show is early on, but that she's gotten sort of more run in the comic thus far. I love her intro. Mark, you talked about with her like going through the armored car and everything like that, but she does seem like maybe that she's been, and again, early on in the show, given sort of the short shrift thus far. I would like to see more of Queen Maeve and the boys. Davis, you seem to concur.
Yeah, no, I mean, really the only run she's getting right now seems to be around the relationship with her and her ex. And that's great and all, and it's cool to see that side of her character, but I'd like to see just something more than that. I know there's something more between her and Homelander. You can feel it. They kind of tiptoe around it a little bit, but there's just so much more there I think they could dive into, and I think this season's going to. I think they're setting up more for Queen Maeve later down in season 2, and that's great because I do think she's a good actress so far. So, but so far she's just kind of been a little limited.
I will say Queen Maeve in the comics is a slow burn as well. So I am comparing the entire story of Queen Maeve in the comics to the little bit of Queen Maeve we've gotten so far on the show. And maybe that's not entirely fair. At this point in the comics, maybe the one in the show is actually kind of even done more. But yeah, we'll see how good. Well, I mean, there is no relationship like that in the comics at all.
Okay.
In fact, Queen Maeve is not bisexual or a lesbian in the comics, but she definitely was fucked over by Homelander, and I kind of like that. I like that, there was a time where she was like this young innocent and maybe had a much different attitude towards being a hero and everything like that, and she's just become such a jaded, hardened like bitch who prefers to like live in this drunken stupor because she's just like burnt out, and then something else emerges. And also I think her friendship with Starlight, it kind of rekindles something too. I'm spoiling too much, but yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed the character progression in the comics. I feel like they were hinting at it though in season 1. Season 1 kind of sped through a couple of storylines, and then other things they were very slow in. The relationship with Starlight and Huey, man, they went through a lot really fast in just one season. In terms of what we get in the comics. And then also I think like Starlight and Queen Maeve's relationship to a certain degree. Queen Maeve still has a ways to go, and I'm hoping that she gets there.
I was hopeful in season 1, like their interaction in the bathroom, like building on, sort of, Maeve telling Starlight to not show them that they got to you, and then the fact that she did at one point in time have these ideals on why she wanted to be a hero as well. So like, she is definitely, of the members of the 7, like obviously in the show, besides Starlight, she seems to be the most redeemable one left.
What about Black Noir?
Well, Black Noir doesn't need to be redeemed. He's done only good things. He's pulling his weight. Like,
He's doing good.
That continues in season 2. Dude, I'm making like the miso soup or whatever. So good. But Mark, what's your take on Queen Maeve and what they've done with her so far in the show?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Jeff said about understanding the full story arc of what is Queen Maeve's character, I guess she's not too far off. I prefer more of that like disenfranchised drunken stupor Queen Maeve, where she just always has a martini in hand and like a gopher boy just fetching her extra drinks.
Yeah, that manservant.
Just no fucks like about anything. Just got to take the edge off and ignore all the nonsense happening in the tower. I do like that Queen Maeve, and I feel like I just hope they're not going to shortchange her too much. How I know it sounds like a lot of us kind of feel in the first season could be the case, but some of what's like going on with Starlight in season 2, at least from what I've seen, feels very akin to story arcs that were destined for Queen Maeve. And so I'm afraid it's going to start removing too much from her, but maybe that'll just actually open up a space for them to do something much more with the Queen Maeve character than ultimately happened in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. We've talked about the Deep and Black Noir, who of course is awesome in everything that he does. What about Translucent? He's not in it a lot, but clearly he's a key figure. The thing for me that I will think about with Translucent is the fight with Butcher and Huey in that first episode. Because one, I thought it was a really cool way of doing a fight with an invisible person. I love Butcher spitting the blood on him, but also it was a key into the fact that this show uses, like, in my opinion, some really awesome music. Doing London Calling there was great. I really enjoy that fight scene, and that just sort of set the tone for me in terms of how they're going to do action, how they're going to incorporate music. I love that. But and Translucent's a fucking creep. What did you think of him, Jeff? And what is sort of the comparison to him in the comic book version?
He's not in the comics.
Oh shit, he's not.
Yeah, no, we have a different member of the Seven who's not on the show. Jack from Jupiter, who's from Jupiter. But not really. That's just his.
That's just
he's
well,
like
because all of them
Manhunter.
still get their. Yeah, he's kind of like a Martian Manhunter, and oh boy, what a character he is. But
personality wise,
I could see like similarities in terms of their personality a bit. Jack lasts a lot longer, and so he's a lot creepier. But I thought very. I thought Translucent was a great character, and since I watched the show before I read the comics, I mean, I got to just enjoy Translucent, and I wasn't just like, who is this guy or anything. Another thing that I really like from the show is every time they kind of do dip into like the real world or anything like that. So I get to see Translucent as a guest on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and things like I like that. You know, it's like those are the kind of things that make it more well-rounded for me. And I feel like since Translucent was only going to be in like 2 episodes, besides like a flashback to that Christmas party and everything like that, you know, they really try to put him in as much things as possible so that you really get to know the character and, you know, kind of get biggest bang for your buck. So it's like with the little bit we did get a Translucent, I thought all of it was pretty awesome. And yeah, him just hanging out in the bathroom. I mean, would you expect any less from an invisible man in that world, though? I mean, that's what the soups are. Yeah,
it's all very logical with the character, and that's where I feel like a lot of these characters are so good, is because it just seems that's how it would be if this guy had it. I mean, he'd be a creep.
Yeah.
He'd be a perv.
if Davis had this power, he'd be marrying him.
Yeah.
If I was Hollow Man, I'd be doing the same shit, you know?
I would,
so,
dude, I would
you'd be surprised what you're going to do if you don't have to look at yourself in the mirror. Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna bring up Hollow Man. Like, there's that one scene burned in my mind. Who's gonna know? And that's Translucent.
Well, and the other thing I like about Translucent is he's not just invisible. He also has like that diamond. Well, I mean, he's translucent. He's not even invisible. But he has that diamond hard skin. So it's like it made him even more formidable. That fight is amazing. And then
that fight's amazing also.
Torturing him and not knowing how to deal with him in the second episode was awesome too.
Yeah, and the fight's so logical too, because like, how are you gonna see this guy? You just pour shit on him, and that was always the logic behind fighting invisible superheroes. Like, why don't they just like pour a bunch of water or like Gatorade over him, and you're gonna see him? And they finally do it, and it seems like nobody ever does that, and that's what happens in the show. Is like, no, you get the logical version of it.
I don't think anybody ever really dukes it out with the Invisible Woman, so it's not that big of a deal. She's also kind of like, she's not only invisible, she's also like kind of hiding a lot of the times in the old Fantastic Four comic books. And Dr. Doom's like, yeah, who gives a shit? You know, I'll deal with her later.
Marco, what'd you think of Translucent and his addition to the group?
I liked his personality, and again, very much akin to Jack from Jupiter. I like that he becomes Huey's first kill. Another character ultimately gets it in the book, and I'm hoping they bring that team and everything around as well. So I won't, divulge who that is. But I like, because that was the big thing. Huey's first kill is a big piece of who he is, and starts him on this path of being with the boys, but always kind of questioning, is what they're doing right? And is Butcher's way of doing things the right way? It's too mean, it's too evil, it's not actually being good. And you can tell like the death of Translucent weighs on him for a good portion. Maybe it's getting covered in his blood again. He's like constantly bathed in blood in the first season.
I think they do that a good job of that, in season 1, and it seems like it's really continuing on in season 2. There's a moment we can talk about later on where Huey and I think the others are starting to question sort of Butcher's leadership as it goes. A-Train, the quintessential speedster, obviously a sort of a Flash analogous character. I really enjoyed how they do speedsters in this show in general. Like in particular, what stands out to me about A-Train is when he's fighting Kimiko, and he's just smashing her head at rapid speed against like the brick wall or whatever in that subway. It's like, yeah, that's how speedsters would really, really mess you up. But A-Train in general is just a really memorable character. He's become part of meme culture from the boys too because of Popclaw's death. What did you think of A-Train, Jeff?
I liked A-Train a lot. I like him in the comics and I like him on the show. One similarity that the two characters definitely have is just sort of like their cowardice and fear around Homelander. I mean, they are both very uncomfortable around that guy. What I like about A-Train on the show is with like the Compound V like steroid use thing, looking at it as like an athlete that's got to constantly be at like the highest proficiency. Because if he had lost that race, I mean, you can't be a part of the 7 and be the second fastest man on the planet.
I mean, it's
guy. Like, yeah, and it's like, yeah, there was zero margin for error. So it's like, I understand the pressure as far as something like that goes. And then I don't really know how all of their abilities work. Yeah, can a man like that remain that fast forever? What does it do to his metabolism? Is he going to age quickly and everything too and just kind of get burnt out? Also, like, yeah, he's one of the newer members before, after Starlight. So it's like he's always still, kind of proving himself too, which is kind of how it is in the comics. Not so much that he's worried about being replaced, but that he definitely feels a little uncomfortable, and he's one of the more like underling characters in the 7 as far as if Homelander tells him to do something, he's going to do it. And he's always trying to prove himself. And go ahead.
He feels like a little brother to the group almost.
He kind of is.
What else?
I love the storyline of just him having to get the fix, needing that. And they've really intertwined him with Starlight really well, I think, when, between season 1, season 2, how that's going. And it's just, it's getting deeper and deeper through episode 3 right now, where, he has to kind of be on Starlight's side for now until he has something over her. So there's something deeper in their relationship as well. So the strings are starting to tighten around him a little bit, and you can kind of feel that.
I love his relationship with Popclaw too. I thought it was sad how it ended. Why would Huey do that?
But yeah, that reminds me of like when you were talking about just how fearsome a speedster can be when he was fighting the female. Him being in Huey's apartment and them not knowing like where's like that, to me I thought was like the scariest scene in the entire first season, because it's like you're definitely powerless against him. You can't escape him. I mean, where are you going to go? It's like he would grab you and you never know. I mean, he was unstable at that point. He was very, emotional. It's like he could have just put his hand through his head or something like that.
Definitely. I thought they did a good job of sort of obviously with Homelander, but I think besides him with A-Train, just that sort of like that feeling of helplessness, because like, look at how he attacked the female, Kimiko, and what he did to Popclaw without, with just a drop of a hat, just injecting her and she was done. Marco, what'd you think of A-Train?
A-Train, I felt like had a lot more dimensionality in the show with, this like the steroid use and that athlete sense. Just the fact that they tied in more of like the teenage kicks world building with his character in this, it wasn't really something I felt like happened in the books a lot. He was definitely like the FNG of the group before Starlight, and was kind of being taken under the wing by a Jack from Jupiter and doing some nefarious stuff and like sneaking off to do drugs and act like boys and stuff like that. But I liked how they developed more of the teenage kicks angle and his relationship with Popclaw. I mean, Popclaw's was like nothing in the books. So the fact that they really expounded on her character so much.
And I think besides just referencing he was a member of Teenage Kicks in the comic, like that was the end of it too. Like he didn't have any sort of like lasting friendship with any of them. He just moved on.
Finally, Starlight is the newest member of the Seven in the show. I thought she was great. Erin Moriarty, I thought, did a really good job. She's gorgeous. She pulls off the whole superhero thing. I like her powers, how they look in the show. And like I said before, I think her interaction with Huey feels very genuine. And her idealism, like I liked her with the PR person. She's like, yeah, it's because I meant it. Like she is coming in sort of hopeful and hoping to not be taken as naive in that regard. Mark, how do you like Starlight in the show?
Delightful. I mean, she won my heart in that first season. She is great. I cannot say that enough. And she seems to ring very true with her portrayal from the books as well. Even despite everything she goes through, she's still this positive, upstanding person. And her relationship with Huey was done absolutely splendid in this. I think she looks great in all of her outfits.
I think the new one was an improvement, but yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. And then I'm excited to see where they take her in season 2 with her becoming more like front and center, where she's starting to have like a TV show come out and just like they're really pushing her hard, and how she's like shying away and getting like obviously distraught from seeing like how much they're blowing her up, because they're turning her into like a pop star versus her wanting to be an actual altruistic hero.
Who is her comic book like character
equivalent?
Yeah, who's the equivalent there?
I find her to be more akin to like Stargirl a bit, where a little more homegrown, down to earth, younger, coming into the fray, idealistic, especially with like the cosmic rod and the kind of energy blast that Stargirl does. Starlight having, you know, just the light powers and whatnot seems very akin to that, I would say.
Gotcha. Jeff, what do you think of Starlight?
Yeah, she's very consistent with what she's like in the comics, and she's a very likable character. So, I mean, I'm enjoying her. I like her on the show. I liked her throughout the entire comic book series. Her relationship with Huey is good. And I like her power set and everything too. I like her like sexy costume. I like it better on the show than in the comics. In the comics, it's like outrageous and just not plausible. And on the
it's like
show,
stirring bikinis.
Yeah, it's like so cartoonishly stupid. It's like stop. Where like in this one, I mean, it sort of makes sense. I can understand why they would say it's more marketable, and at the same time, like it wouldn't be unreasonable to ask, you know, someone like that to have to wear that outfit. So I get it, especially because the other one does seem kind of old fashioned and like homemade.
Yeah, it feels kind of like Silk Spectre 1 to Silk Spectre 2, almost.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Davis?
I'm glad they had a character that was just joining the Seven and showing that transformation of what they think it's going to be and what it really is, because I think that's really big, and they did that really well.
Yeah, and she found out what it was.
Yeah, and and she's still finding out, just doing all the PR stuff right now in season 2. I love all that stuff. Just them showing that side of the world. It's really neat that they're doing that. And I gotta say, I'm not sure if she's on purpose doing this or not, but her posture is still like really bad for what you think a superhero would be. Like just offset, off camera, when she's just talking with somebody else. It's just like she just seems like she's still that little girl, like, because she's not too sure of herself all the time. So I'm not sure if she's like actually trying to do that or not, but if she is, it's working. So
she needs more ergonomic furniture or whatever it's called. I don't know.
Let's go back to that video of her next to that perfectly organized bookshelf and see what her posture was like there.
Yeah, Vought PR came in there at Comic-Con at Home and definitely organized her bookshelf meticulously. What about the boys themselves? What do you think of how that group came together? I'll just say really quick, I thought I would not like Frenchie as a character, and he absolutely won me over. I think he is great. His relationship with the female and wanting to sort of, you know, crack her code and help her out was really good. Jeff, what did you think of them? Because as you alluded to, they're not supes in this, which they are in the comics. How do you think, other than that, they sort of play out?
Well, I mean, first off, like I said, I think it's better that they're not. I think it makes more sense, and it kind of helps with the struggle. And then they're like true underdogs, so it's kind of better that way. Like I said, I thought Butcher was better in the comics. so far than he is on the show, but I like him on the show as well, and I really just like Carl Urban. Huey is really good. He's American in this as opposed to Scottish. I don't really care about Scottish accents or Scottish culture, so I'm fine with him being an American. Like those stupid references in the comic. It's like, this means nothing to me. So all of that is fine. Mother's Milk to me seems exactly the same, except for that he's not a soup. I mean, if anything, in the comics, he's like even bigger. You know, like he's a humongous guy. But I mean, he still kind of has like that build and carries himself like that on the show. And then it's like he looks like he's the muscle of the group, but he's not. He's like the brains, and that's how it is in the comics too. So that's kind of cool. The muscle is obviously the female, and then also Frenchie are the two, like basically like the muscle ones in the comics. Frenchie is great. I think he's even better on the show than he is in the comics. He seems more resourceful and not quite as insane. And then the female, if anybody's accurate, as far as the boys' characters go, it's her. I mean, she is perfect. Even how I feel like they've prettied her up too much in season 2. I like how she wore her hair more in season 1. That seemed more of what she's like throughout the entire series. I mean, she really just kind of like wears like the oversized trench coat, has her hair a certain way, sort of not a vacant expression, but like sort of like this like dead face. You know, it's like
feral in season 1.
Yeah, and I feel like she's kind of like that throughout the entire series. Like Frenchie is her link to the rest of the world, and it's like that in both the show and the comics. And I like the relationship that he has with her, and basically what happens with those two characters in the story. And I'm liking it on the show too. So I mean, I'm really enjoying how everything's going. One of my favorite things with the boys in season 1 was also how much Mother's Milk and Frenchie just hated each other, and that Butcher had to lie to Mother's Milk that Frenchie was even going to be a part of the operation because of the shit that had happened to them in the past. I think it was like with Lamplighter, right? And just seeing the two of them clash, but then at the end they had become closer, and now it's I forget, was it Davis or whatever who referenced it? It's like Butcher's kind of like the odd man out now, because of what his behavior was like in the last couple episodes of the first season, and him like reintroducing himself in season 2, and that's kind of how it is in the comics too. Butcher is the leader, and Butcher is cutthroat, and so the rest of the group I feel like do become kind of tighter, and he is sort of the odd man out, even though all of them owe him a lot in different ways, and he was a good friend to them at different times. But then, you know, how much can you trust Butcher, because he is kind of self-serving.
Marco, what'd you think about how the group played out in the show?
I feel like it came together the right way. I mean, you miss a lot of that in the comics. Like, they're very much fine-tuned, and it's just Huey walking into it. Yeah. Whereas this was trying to reestablish them after the tragedy that happens with Mallory. And what was always nice in the book, like with talking about Frenchie and the female, is that they, like, while the female was the muscle and Frenchie was kind of like the wild card, if you would, but they were also the heart of the team. Truly, it's like their little cute antics together that they clearly had this like relationship of sorts, this simply platonic like love for each other. Brought like that was basically their whole character in the book, and I like how they're really defining that relationship in the show and building upon it, making them have these connections.
I'm shipping them. I hope they get together. I like them.
Well, on the show, who knows?
The boys, I like all the characters. First off, I do like they're all very well done. I don't know them from the books or anything like that, and I really enjoy them. I just, after like listening to you guys through this, I'm a little worried now because don't know how long I'm going to be able to believe that they can stand up to the 7.
Yeah,
and
no,
that is a problem when it comes to this world that they've built, and Mother's Milk, and just that Mother's Milk doesn't have powers, and that is in reference to his powers. It sounds like in the book, and there's no reference of that. That's weird to me. Like, why do that?
Very weird, yeah.
I think that's a great point. It's kind of why I asked the question earlier. Do you think that they will change that at some point in the series? The whole reason behind it is because in watching this, like, yeah, they are outgunned at every turn. They don't have powers, and they can't win. They just sort of, it's almost Lovecraftian. They just live to die another day kind of deal, you know?
But even with their powers, the 7 definitely still outclassed them. Like, because Vought even like was running the numbers. It's like, what if they ever did take a shot at the 7? And like the scenarios always had it the same way. Both Homelander and Black Noir would survive, and Maeve probably would too. And it's like, and then everybody else would get wiped out in the battle, is what they said. And there is shit. I mean, I don't know, because it hasn't come up in the show, but there is a reason why they never have a direct confrontation with each other for a very long time. And there is sort of like this ceasefire type thing. I mean, I guess they're kind of going on in season 2 as well. Homelander has made a promise for Butcher to remain okay.
Butcher, from what I can see.
It is just Butcher, where it's a little different in the comics, and there's more of a complete ceasefire. It's like, you don't directly go after this group won't directly go after you, and so the 7 kind of turn a blind eye to what they've been doing to other Soups groups, and I don't know, and I don't think anybody ever took the boys seriously enough that they were going to be that big of a threat. And then by the time they do, it's almost too late. But then also there's other shit that's going. It becomes a very jumbled mess, but a very awesome jumbled mess.
But
and I hope that happens on the show too.
Very aware of them in the show. I'm glad you brought up the whole truce with Butcher, because in terms of talking about reveals, Jeff, you I think touched on it a little bit. But what did you all make of sort of the surprise in season 1 that Butcher's wife is still alive? She has a kid. It's Homelander's kid, very obviously. What did you sort of make of that, Mark?
Was mind-blowing. I mean, it really was. That totally threw me through a loop. And I honestly thought season 2 was going to pick up a little more close to where season 1 ended, like right there in that scene, because that was a hell of a confrontation to have happen. So I thought it was wonderfully done. And what's cool is it's completely off book. And so this is one of the exciting things, coming from the original source material, is like, show me a new adventure. All right, like, I get the world we have, the character, the types we have, and let's see something kind of different and exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, before we go to break, other memorable characters that aren't a part of the 7 or the boys. I mentioned Mesmer. I think in terms of side characters, he's probably my favorite. It's just like the whole Doogie Howser-esque show. The fact that he was at a con, we got Billy Zane because of him, and just this man is the rapist is just such a fucking weirdly funny line to have in the show. Whether it's Mesmer or anybody else, any other side characters that we didn't hit on that you guys want to make sure that we do before we pivot to season 2?
I mean, we talked about Stillwell already, but Elizabeth Banks, I'm gonna just say it.
Elizabeth Shue.
Sorry.
Hollow Man's Elizabeth Shue.
Adventures in Babysitting.
Adventures in Babysitting is the one.
The Karate Kid's Elizabeth Shue.
She kills it. I'm glad they went away from the book in that sense, because those scenes again were just so memorable, and she was a big part of that.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else that we didn't touch on? Ezekiel.
I'm fine with us not going too much into Ezekiel unless you want to.
No. I was just gonna say we Popclaw, top notch character. I wish she was still with us. I am a filthy pig, and with that, we are going to go to break. On the other side, we are going to talk about season 2 of The Boys on the Best Damn Nerd Show. Welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show. We are talking about The Boys, and now let's talk about season 2. And before we dive into what we've thought about what we've seen from it, I was surprised, and apparently a lot of the internet and everyone else that was excited for The Boys was surprised, because I thought we were getting all of season 2 released at once. I clearly did not look heavily into it if they announced that beforehand, but I thought there was some issue with my account when I only saw the 3 episodes on there. And so I went on to Twitter, and apparently I was not the only one that was sort of taken unawares by that. But it definitely spurred a conversation off air between Jeff and I in terms of, The Boys going away from the binge watch model and what we thought about that. And, they gave us 3 episodes as opposed to just 1, but after that, they're going with a week by week kind of deal. And I think there are pluses and minuses to both. What do you think about going away from the binge watch model moving forward with The Boys and just shows in general. I guess, Jeff, we can start with you.
I'm overall in favor of it. I mean, it worked out well with The Mandalorian. It's kind of how we've always watched television, up until recently. The binge model kind of doesn't work because things get burnt out too fast. I mean, so much work and time goes into creating a series, and it's like if everybody watches a season in a weekend, and then it's like, okay, what else you got for me, Amazon Prime? It's like, well, shit, man, we're not going to have season 3 of The Boys for you anytime soon. And it's like people lose interest. They feel like they've got burnt out. They feel like people have forgotten about it. I mean, I used to experience that a lot with HBO, not because there was a binge watching model to it. It's just it took forever between seasons of certain shows. Certainly Curb Your Enthusiasm, but The Sopranos was guilty of it as well, as was Oz. I mean, there were a lot of shows where it's like, it seems like forever since I watched a new episode of this. It's like, am I even going to return to it? And then like with shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm and everything, it's like I stopped watching for a while and then like I revisited it. And I just feel like, that's what people are saying right now about like, what's that show on Amazon? The Expanse. And it's like, it really wasn't that long ago that the last season came out, but since everybody watched it all immediately, it seems like forever already. And it's like, you're not going to get another season for a while. So like I said, I think it's kind of a good idea. You can always binge it after they're all done. They don't go away. Yeah. So it's still like, superior to like what it was when it was like network television, because they're right there at your beck and call whenever you want them. And I feel like maybe they're weaning us off of it. So it's like, here's 3 to get you excited for the new season. But now we're going to, ease off the gas a little bit, and you're going to get 1 a week. It also makes it so that it's easier to avoid spoilers. Because, I mean, I didn't watch all of season 1 in one go. I kind of had to spread it out a little bit, like over the course of a week. I mean, I still watched the entire season in a week, which is sort of ridiculous. But it's like, you can't go online. You can't, watch anything or, like look at anything because people are going to drop like major spoilers. Like, I mean, I wasn't looking up stuff yet, but I mean, people definitely would have said like Homeland or Butcher's wife is still alive, and has Homelander's son.
Yeah.
It's like that would have been terrible to see before I had watched the entire season.
Well, and I think, part of the fun and a lot of the stuff that makes a series sort of last beyond its runtime is the fact that, if it comes out week to week, all of us can get together and talk about it. Part of the fun for me was, at the height of the Best Damn Nerd Show was watching Arrow with y'all and talking about each week's episode, or, when season 1 of Westworld was, like the theories in between each episode and what it all meant. On the, the binge watch is instant gratification. You get your answers right after the other and stuff like that. And there is merit to that. There are things to like about it. But I like having the discussion. And so I feel like The Boys maybe are just drawing the best of both worlds. They give you more than one episode. So we've waited a while and now we can really dive in feet first, but we're not getting everything at once. But Mark, what do you think about them going away from just the straight binge?
Who dives in feet first?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, personally, I'm not able to binge a lot anymore. And I find like a lot of these series that I get really sucked into with huge character development, you really get more of it getting to digest each episode because you reflect back on the events that happened and everything like that week after week, like you said. And so I'm good with it because, no spoilers from all you guys.
Sorry, we're going to spoil it for you, Mark. I know you haven't finished watching season 2, what's been released so far.
I've seen the first episode.
Well, that's on you.
It hasn't even been a week.
It's on the schedule, boyo.
I'm really watching 1 a week.
What say you?
Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think it's just better business. I mean, and it's better for the fans too, because now you have, 8-9 weeks of spread time where people are talking about it constantly. They're waiting for it. They're discussing what they want to see, what happened in the last episode. You put it on the binge, you might get 2 weeks of chatter, maybe, possibly, and then it's gone. And it's just for the show's sake. The longer people are talking about it, the more it's going to stay top of mind, and the longer probably the show can go on, which is what we want as long as it's good. I mean, it's probably not a good thing for a bad show. That's not going to go well. Like not a good model for a show that's not going to resonate with a lot of people. So I think all in all, it's good for the fans. It's good for business for them. and it's probably just another moment of us feeling like the get off the lawn kid, because the younger generation wants instant grat.
They like the binge. They do. I will say though, the drawback. Okay, we're in a pandemic. There's not as much to do. We're supposed to stay in our homes. So like obviously a lot of people have more time to binge watch right now. Not everyone does. But what I'll say to that is look at Tiger King, which was a phenomenon at the start of this whole ordeal. But it kind of burned out pretty quickly. And on the other side, you have The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan, the Bulls documentary, and they released that week after week, and it did insanely big ratings. And people were talking about it for a longer period of time, and it became another sort of, really, big phenomenon. So I'm all for this new model and going away from just the straight binge. And like Jeff said, I think it worked really well for The Mandalorian. It was a nice change of pace and a throwback to how we used to enjoy our shows and everything. So I'm all for it. But let's get into season 2 itself. What have you guys thought so far? Has it maintained the same tone? What do you think of the new characters? Davis, we'll start with you, and Mark, I apologize. Well, actually, you know what? Let's start with Mark since one episode in. Mark, what do you think?
I am digging it. I like all the boys out on the lam. I like the fun digs that Frenchie found for them in the what looks like a drug sewer. It's great. I really like Homelander's, interaction with, forgive me, Gus Fring. I think his name's Edward something in the show.
Stan Edgar.
Edgar, that's it. Yeah, I like his initial interaction with him because that definitely reminds me of the Stillwell from the comic books. The meltdown for the Deep in Sandusky. Just him at the water park yelling at kids is absolutely delightful. I just watched the first episode and it was enough. I felt like a lot was packed in, just like in season 1. I mean, season 1 was 8 episodes, and I feel like so much happened. Even just in this first episode, I'm fully back in. It's like I'm reestablished with all the characters, and even just having Butcher just show up at the end, Daddy's home, right? It's like classic Butcher. What are you up to?
See what he does, Mark.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Sorry, buddy. Earmuff it. David,
you don't have to wait.
Yeah, you're right now, partner. Davis, what do you think?
I mean, how many marine animals are we gonna just absolutely slaughter in these seasons? Because that whale was just obliterated. So that was a fun scene. No, it's been keeping up with season 1. The first episode, Mark, that you saw, it was a lot of build up, I thought, which was it needed to where we're going in this second season. And I actually really like how fast they've actually gotten the V chemical out in the open in the news. They're already talking about it. I didn't think that was going to be like a reveal till the end of the season. And I thought that was going to be like the big kind of like last 2 episode thing that they're fighting over. But now you get to see the business side of the soups. That's awesome. That's something that, again, you don't get to see in normal superhero movies. And if superheroes were real, I do feel like they would be marketed like this. They would be celebrities. And it's a really cool conversation to have if that were the case, where it would go and what would the business side of it be? How much would it affect the superheroes and all that? And that's been fun to see. Stormfront, she's been an interesting addition. I'm not a huge fan of the actress and what I've seen her in elsewhere. She is, from what I know, killing the role because she's funny. She's exactly what I feel like that team or the marketing wanted. Even though the Lisa girl hates her, but I think that's what they wanted in there. And there's something deeper about her that you can tell, like she's there for some other reason. We just don't know what it is yet, but she's there for something else, I feel like. So she's been fun though.
Jeff, I'll let you build on that.
Yeah, a couple of things that David said. I didn't think that the Compound V public exposure would have happened this soon either. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to turn out. I'm not against it. I'm just kind of curious with the story. In terms of Stormfront, I don't like the gender swap from the comic book character. I don't like the personality change either. Even the powers are different. She's more like a Storm, like she has like lightning powers. It's like Stormfront. The name makes sense for her powers in the on the show. And then also her being a part of the Seven. I'm not really a huge fan of that either, because one of the things I love in the comic is how big the world is, and there are other teams. And Stormfront, I don't know if he was the leader exactly, but definitely one of the more compelling personalities. It's like he belonged to this group that was sort of like just below the Seven. And Stormfront's power level, like everybody knew Homelander could kick his ass, but like he's not much lower than that. And he's more vicious than Homelander in a lot of ways too. So it's like, I don't know, if the two of them ever got into a fight, it would be kind of serious.
Yeah.
And when he fought the boys, it was fucking brutal. I loved it in the comics because he's, man, what a son of a bitch he is.
What's his power ability in the books?
He's kind of more like Homelander. I think he does have the lightning ability, but it comes out of like his eyes or something like that. So he very much is like Homelander. I don't want to get into it too much, just in case they do more things with her on the show that end up like the comic. And episode 3 kind of hinted at that, at least.
Yes.
So I am curious to see what happens with her in the future. I'm not against everything that she's done on the show. I think she's all right. I think I would appreciate her more if I had not read the comics, just because I already kind of have this Stormfront character built into my head. And it's like I would have liked to have seen that on the show. It would have been really wild. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to the rest of season 2. I thought season 2 so far has been okay. I don't know. It's not hitting me the same way as season 1 has. First episode was all right, maybe because it was just sort of setting things up like you said, Chris. I don't know how I feel about the cult thing with the Deep. I like that he's still doing the redemption arc thing, but I don't know, it just seems kind of cheesy. And then the Archer hero guy with him, it's like, I don't know if I really give a shit about this.
Don't drink the Fresca, dude.
Yeah, that whole thing, that was creeping me out. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm still enjoying his character progression. Oh, I definitely didn't enjoy the Gills talking and singing
with
to him.
Patton Oswalt.
But I don't like Patton Oswalt. I liked him on the TV show Happy, doing the voice of Happy. Yeah. But I didn't need the Gills to start talking.
Yeah,
I guess we're
thinks.
Yeah, he's on that shroom team, man.
And then I guess we're just digging more into Deep's character, and you see him as more sympathetic than he even was in season 1. So it's like, I guess that's kind of cool and everything like that. And then I kind of wish that they didn't show the whale scene at Comic-Con, because it was so awesome. It would have been so much more fun to just watch it on the show. But I mean, I understand it's like it's a real gotcha scene, so I can understand why they used it.
My favorite part of the whale scene is just how the Deep looks on top of the whale.
He looks awesome on it,
He does look awesome, but he's just Deep doing his thing, man. It's just so like classic comic book, you know. So I really enjoyed that. I've
seen Aquaman do that exact same thing.
Exactly. So it totally worked, and Chase Crawford again is nailing the role. I've really enjoyed season 2. I think so far the tone overall is about the same, and sort of the things that they're exploring feel like they're going to be the same, especially after how the episode 3 ended. That it felt like they're not pulling any punches. Maybe down the line with Stormfront, the fact that she's going to be this racist character. I don't really like Stormfront, and I think there is more of it now that's like I'm supposed to not like her, so that's okay. I do appreciate her breaking down the press junket and like chastising them for their stupid questions, because I know exactly what that's like and what those people do. So her shaming them for their shitty questions, I definitely appreciated. But she is very much so sort of the like youth generation's character with the Instagram Live and the followers and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if she had a TikTok, and clearly that's not for me. I was born old, so I'm not really that into Stormfront right now, but I love her presence, though, is sort of making Homelander more of a good guy babyface. Like, he's clearly not a good guy, but like this is our bad guy, you know. And now this Johnny-come-lately Stormfront character is like, no, Homelander much more charming and charismatic. He's the evil one that we want to be preoccupied with. I like all of the scenes so far with Homelander and his kid and Butcher's wife. Like, and it's still sort of very much so on brand with everything that we saw from him in season 1. Especially when they explored his backstory and, you know, the blanket and everything, and, you know, him throwing the kid off of the roof to reveal his powers was a great scene. I think what was better was them at breakfast, like him asking for more syrup was just such a dick. And Butcher's wife really plays up into the fact she's completely helpless to stop this guy.
Well,
you know, she stands her ground at certain points, but she knows that she's just like sort of hilariously overwhelmed by what he is. We didn't ask this question in the previous segment, so I'll pose it to you two now. Mark, for those of you not watching on YouTube, has removed his headset. But do you think that I forget, you know, Butcher's wife's name. Do you think her Rebecca, her character and Homelander, do you think that was a consensual deal, or is it, as Butcher says, that he forced herself on him?
Boy, like
I've gone back and forth on it.
I kind of feel that it's, I don't know if it's something that she regrets, but like I'm kind of now saying that it wasn't consensual. That's how I'm looking at it. But I was thinking it was consensual when I saw that she was still alive at the end of season 1. So I don't know. Maybe it was, and she just has now realized who Homelander is. But man, that screws up so many things too.
Yeah, I think
I don't know.
With the tone of the books, I think that they're gonna make it so it wasn't consensual. I think
well, and it's not consensual in the books, and she just doesn't survive childbirth. I mean, the thing just like heat visions itself out of her, and Butcher has to beat the fetus to death, or the newborn to death at that point, I suppose. And it's like that's what happens to her, and like he witnesses that, you know. So it's like the whole thing is tremendously awful. Yeah.
Well, and as horrible as all of that is, and, you know, never wanting to wish that, but in terms of like narrative and character, it's like that makes more sense. It also makes Rebecca a more sympathetic character. She's like
saint-like in the comics, and she can remain that way. Where, like, I mean, that's almost why it can't be consensual, because then it's like, what is Butcher almost even fighting for? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Exactly, and then this is one thing from season 1 that we forgot to mention, because you brought up the baby and Butcher when Butcher and Mother's Milk are in the hospital and using the baby as a laser gun.
Oh yeah,
that is so good. He's like, that was fucking diabolical. It's one of my favorite lines in the whole show. It was so good. But overall, season 2, while maybe not as like just completely mind blowing because it's not as new, I have really enjoyed. I like Giancarlo Esposito as Stan Edgar. I think, you know, what you guys have described as Stillwell feels sort of very true to like his sort of like ice in his veins kind of nature.
Yeah.
You know, the Archer in the cult thing, I'm waiting to see on it. And see how it goes. I do think it's kind of funny how the Deep is sort of paired up with like kind of a D-lister and everything like that. I'm all for expanding this world of the boys and everything. So any other standout moments from season 2 so far, or things that you wish they hadn't done? Like the Compound V thing, I also agree with you guys. Like I didn't expect that. But then it feels like it hasn't been made to be that big of a deal, and I know it just happened recently, but even, like, Butcher shit all over it, but it's like a huge win for them.
I think just opens up so much more of the story that they could possibly do on the corporate front of it, which it is interesting. It's interesting to see like how that would be, and that's why I like that they did it that early.
What do you guys think of Kimiko's brother, R.I.P.?
I thought he was fine.
Yeah,
he was fine. It was the dialogue was good between them. It felt very real what they were going through. I almost teared up. I will admit, I almost had it. So
you should have filmed yourself like Kevin Smith.
Yeah. Just like Kevin Smith.
Then we would know it's genuine.
Yeah,
I almost felt something.
and orchestrated, totally not played. No, I agree with Davis in terms of like I enjoyed that dynamic and the fact that like he's a bad guy, he's anti-America and all that stuff, but their brother-sister relationship I thought was well done, and again playing off of Frenchie and him wanting to help both of them was good. All right, I want Mark to put his headphones back on. I can't believe they killed Huey that early on into season 2.
Lies. Lies.
Mark's now back on headset as we are winding down here this episode of the Best Damn Nerd Show talking about The Boys. I just want to end with sort of, is The Boys and its success sort of a reaction to, I think, how some of us has felt, in recent years toward the sort of the superhero saturation. I know it was a comic book and everything like that, but now that it's been adapted, is there any part of you that feel like you took to it because there's almost like this superhero overload, and so like a subversion of that is kind of just what we needed? I definitely feel that way, that for me it was this cool sort of like new take on it, so it freshened up the genre in a lot of ways.
I don't think you can deny that. I don't think any of us could, and I'll call you out as a liar if you do.
Well, I'm going to deny it. I'm going to argue it. No, I enjoyed it because it's its own interesting story, but I mean, like, subversion for subversion's sake, I find disgusting. It's like, and how much superhero fatigue do I have if I've seen most of the superhero movies, and we are kind of excited for the Snyder Cut on HBO, if for no other reason than just, curiosity's sake.
Davis?
I don't think it means that we're not overdone on it, though. Like, yes.
Are you going to stop watching Marvel movies?
No, but damn, man.
Oh, no, I guess you're not that over it.
It's like, I feel like it's like all I watch now, and I still like it, but I do want new stuff, and that's why I think this is why it's attracted so many people to it, is because it's seeing the other side. And
I think not only that, it's also, it's completely fresh characters. If you make a Spider-Man movie, for the most part, it's like, I know Spider-Man, so I know at least what it should be like.
You better by now. Shit.
But it's like, with The Boys, it's like, this is kind of like its own unique tale, but even what it's doing, has been done in the past with The Watchmen and stuff like that.
Watchmen, yeah, totally. I think the cool thing, like with Watchmen, is that they are new characters, but they are based off of, in large part, very familiar ones. So they're able to do new things with them, but it's like there's an easy in to who these characters are and just kind of funny with it. But Mark, what do you take on sort of, do you think a new wave of sort of this type of superhero genre? Do you think this freshens it up?
Yeah, I think more of the like the average consumer nowadays is much more versed with superheroes and superhero lore and superpowers and things like that. Just look no further than the CW, and you can see like every single show that's a hit is power based in that regard. And so I think people are getting
Supernatural.
Yeah, still for a little
while longer.
Super in the title.
But so
and natural
people are excited by the concepts that are superpowers and people with powers and a lot of the relationships that can come out of that, but they want to see something new. They want to see something that they can jump into and not have it be I don't feel this way, but maybe like a tired character, if you would. That's like, oh yeah, it's Superman. Oh, I've always known about Superman.
Knew you were going to use that as an example as your tired character. You shut your mouth, Mark, and you take those posters down.
I don't believe it.
You don't deserve to be a Superman fan anymore.
Out there, I can see people wanting to see something a little different, since it's like falling into
evil,
comic
Homelander
books
or
and
Superman in the Snyderverse,
and superpowers has never been more accessible for people. And so I think we're going to start seeing more and more properties adapted from comic books that are very intriguing. Like Deadly Class came out as an adaptation. Unfortunately, got canceled. Didn't make it past the first season. But I implore you, find season 1 of Deadly Class and give that a watch if you like what's been developed out of The Boys. And just the Preacher show is fantastic. It's just there's a lot more being pulled from comic books nowadays, which was just such fun storytelling.
Capes for Christ.
And I think The Boys is delivering on that, and I think there's a lot of other shows that have delivered on that, and especially like superpower things. If you're familiar with Invincible from Robert Kirkman as well, his superpower is getting a animated version, I believe, coming out. That's gonna be super cool, and so it just geeks me out. Just excited that these are happening, and that the mass market, if you would, is responding so positively to it. I don't think it's because it's fatigue and people don't want it. I think it's because they can't get enough of it, and so they need more.
They want more. It's just like they're talking about Stillwell in season 1, talking about the number of franchises, the number of superheroes there are, and everything like that. It is definitely a different sort of exploration than what we've become used to in the last couple of years and everything like that. I am eager to continue talking about what happens in season 2 of The Boys as they switch to the week to week model. So it might become some type of recurring segment, perhaps a show within a show. Dare to dream, no promises. But this has been a fun.
Sounds like a real miss.
Sometimes it's on target.
Daryl spinoff.
Sometimes it's on target. Sometimes you wear your white hat or your black hat. But that is going to do it for this edition of the Best Damn Nerd Show. It's been a lot of fun talking The Boys with the boys. So have a great week, everyone. And remember, if you're a nerd, always say it loud and say it proud. Hey Nerdosphere, Bimbo Jimbo here. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want early access to this show, then you need to go to bestdamnnerdshow.com/Patreon. There is a bevy of content out there for you, and I hope you enjoy it all. Thank you so much for your support.